Hi everyone, good morning. So today I just wanted to have a chat about that period of time in the growing season we refer to as the June gap. And the June gap is basically when most people lose all of the colour or most of the colour out of their gardens, out of their borders, and it's because the spring flowers have all finished by then. So all your tulips and your daffodils, everything that gives that pop of colour is finished. And the summer flowers, you know, your perennials like your monarda, your phlox, they haven't started to flower yet, so you get a lot of greenery in your borders. So every year I think, right, I must do something about the June gap in my garden, and it's a really simple thing to rectify. You just have to be organised about it, and now is the time to take notice of where the colour is in your garden. So if you just pan along here, a couple of years ago all my garden was like that, just green, and since then I've planted big pops of Aqualesia. So you just look at your garden now and see where the pops of colour are, and then replicate that plant throughout your garden. So if you can have a look, I've got Aqualesia, I've got some pink Persicaria, I've got some beautiful clumps of Dutch iris here. I've got alliums, and then I've got this, which is Thalictrum. That's a nice pop of colour. And then I've got some beautiful yellow Dutch iris here, and my Verbascum is just coming into colour now. So it is simple. All I have to do is think, right, for the rest of my garden I need to buy more allium bulbs, more iris, maybe split some of the Aqualesia and dot them around. So if we come round to the front of the garden, I'll show you my front border, which in a month's time that will be beautiful. It'll be full of colour, as will this. So yeah, if you follow me around here, you see this is going to be a lovely big white daisy. That loosestrife is bright yellow, but everything's just green. I have got some bearded iris going over here. The difference between bearded iris, which are these ones, these grow from a rhizome, and they don't do particularly well in my garden because a rhizome needs to be on top of your soil and it needs to be baked by the sun, and you can see my borders are really full, so they struggle to get that sunshine, but they are beautiful when they come out. Whereas these, the Dutch iris, they grow from bulbs. They don't need any space really, they just shoot up, and really it's the Dutch iris that are giving that pop of colour at the moment. Right, so if we come down here, you'll see in the front garden I've sort of lost, well, I never have actually got any colour yet. So here, you know, there's a little bit of Shasta daisy there, but all this geranium, the geum, the crocosmia, nothing's out yet. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in my journal for, say, August, and I'll say, you know, buy more allium, buy some Dutch iris, and then I'll plant them in there, and this will be full then of colour and pollinating plants. The same here, this is a good one. This is Scabiosa. That's a lovely plant, and you see how it's sort of flat on the top. The pollinators love that because they can just walk along it and each of those little flowers that can get pollen from, but everything else is still green. Another plant, this doesn't really count. I can't really replicate this because this is a large shrub and it would just take up too much room in my borders. As beautiful as it is, and it does give colour at this time of year. Right, so if you come in the back garden now, I'll show you a geum which I'm going to split, and hopefully I'll get about 10 plants out of that. So we're here in the back garden now. This border here looks the way it does because we're actually going to put a greenhouse here, so I'm going to dig this border out. It was basically a border where I put plants that I don't know where else to put them, because it's very sandy, the soil, and I know that they'll be fine in here. But this geum is gorgeous. It's tall, it's zingy. I'll dig him up. I've got a huge patch. I was hoping to get 10 plants out of that, and I'll just pop it round the garden. So you can imagine if I'd split this very early this year, or in the autumn, and planted that out in that front border, it would have looked completely different. I wouldn't have that June gap. I'd have this zingy orange, and then I would have had some of that deep purple of the Dutch iris. I've got loads of beautiful Aquilesias here. What I'll do here is I'll collect the seed from this in the autumn, grow them on over winter and plant them out, and then I'll have these in the front garden. That's a beautiful one. I think that one's called Red Hobbit, and then this is another beautiful one there. And I still have got a few wallflowers in there, but they are coming to the end of their life. And I've got these beautiful pure white bearded iris, again coming to the end. There's a few still to open there. This is a rhizome here, so that's what a bearded iris looks like, the rhizome. And you don't bury them, you lie them on top of the soil and the sun bakes down on them, and it is a very sunny border here, so that's why they do very well. So, oh, and I've just spotted a nice pale pink Aquilesia there as well. So again, I think I only have that in this back garden. I'll be more organised. I'll collect the seed. I'll split some plants, and then next year I won't have the June gap. Here in the northeast of England, the June gap is sort of like right at the first 2 weeks in June, I would say. There's another way you can rectify the June gap, and that is to buy very well established plants that are in flower. If you go to the garden centre, you know, and you sort of buy plants this big and they're ready to flower, bring them home, but they work out quite expensive. And if you've got a garden the size of mine, you know, you could spend a few £100 just trying to introduce pops of colour. Whereas I think, right, well, I've got my favourite plants, so I'll just use them. Another way to rectify the June gap is to buy, they used to be called bedding plants, like annuals, marigolds, things like that. Even if you just bought a packet of marigold seeds and sprinkled them about for next year, they'll pop up. Poppies, they would fill that June gap as well, but they do tend to take over your garden. So if anybody has a plant in their garden that's flowering now or throughout June, why not share it with us just in the comments below? I'd love that. I'd love to introduce a new plant into my garden, particularly if anybody knows any yellow ones. So I hope you found this useful. Please do come back and visit the channel again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.